So on this one I'm going to talk about trust law. Yeah, so we've been looking at the difference between laws and rules, or laws and acts and statutes and stuff. Bit of a grey area, but basically we can establish that rules are made by an authority such as a king or a captain, and these rules are passed down for the protection of the people. Yeah. And laws are kind of like the laws of gravity, don't kill, don't steal. The very obvious things that basically rules are made by a king and recognised by the people, and law is defined by nature and recognised by the people. And so then when we ask how come we're in this social contract with the government, I had a lot of misconception about the government. I always thought the government was kind of like there for the people, to protect the people. It was you know, but you'd find out really that a government is nothing more than just a corporation. The thing with the corporation is it's a hollow vessel or entity used basically as a legal instrument just to define a corporation, but obviously there's no one single flesh and blood person there, although somebody's signed for it and that. So how does a social contract work? You know, if I'm saying to you that we're all, or in your government, you're applicable to laws, you know, how does that come about? Well, you see, when you're born from the waters of your mother's womb, you burst onto the land like a ship is berthed at the haven. And the laws of the sea then meet the laws of the land. And so obviously you're too young to take authority over yourself. So your mother grants authority for you. So that's... You entered into a trust agreement then. So there's three parties to a trust agreement always. There's the one who grants the authority, there's the one who carries out the deeds of the trust, and there's the beneficiary. Okay, so a trust agreement is basically a trust contract for two of the parties, being the trustor or grantor and the trustee, or the one who actually carries out the contract. The beneficiary has no obligation to the contract, although the beneficiary, when the beneficiary takes the services and acts in acquiescence and consents to the governed, then he instantly contracts in. So he becomes a part of the contract, but not only temporarily, because there's no wet ink signature. And that's where the legal person comes in, or legal fiction. We have the right to a person. We have the right to a natural person, a legal juristic person, an artificial person, which is the same thing. And a person is defined as something that represents a legal entity that represents more or less the human, the man, the woman, the flesh and blood. More or less. It can be a lot more, or it can be a lot less. Trust law is it's a big field, a big subject. There's, you know, because there's people and animals and things, and they all have to be seen as differently. So, for example, your mother signs a contract with the relevant government or king or whatever, and enters the child into a contract and grants them a natural person. When they reach 18, they get a legal person as well status. So you gain these statuses, but you're never told how to assert them or how to become your own authority. I always look at trust law when it comes to people as like a music band. You know, I'm a composer, I'm a musician, so if I write a song, I'm author. And in a trust agreement you have the three parties. You have the author, so in rock and roll you have author, actor and audience. So you imagine those three positions. You know, the author has got a contract with the actors or musicians or whoever's acting on behalf of the author and beneficiary or audience. So if you go to a concert, you have no real duties. You know, obviously you can't break common law, you can't break natural law or anything, you can't kill, steal or anything, but you can leave the concert. You've got certain rights, like you can go to the toilet, you get free toilet paper, things like that are granted to you. Obviously the musicians are contractually obliged, so if the guitar player doesn't turn up, he could be millions in debt. And obviously the author is held liable and responsible for all of the things that go wrong in his name. And here we are at the playground again. Yeah. So let me paint a little picture. A child is born. The mother gives birth to the child. She gives it a name, and it gets the family name. Say Johnny, little Johnny. A mother decides, in case that she's ill or she can't be there or she dies, she decides to find a way to put the child in trust, to find a nanny for the child. And so she finds a nanny and makes a contractual agreement with the nanny to look after all of the child's funds, all of the child's inheritance, and look after the child and the child's health. And the mother is grantor. She grants, through her signature or autograph, she grants authority to that document. She turns it into a legal binding document with the trustee, the nanny. So the nanny becomes trustee, and the trustee has the duty to follow the things in the contract, look after the child, provide health, provide education. And the nanny also has the duty and right to spend the funds and use the trust, the contents of the trust, for the welfare and benefit of the child, the beneficiary, okay, little Johnny. And so when Johnny turns 18, he is then, by law, able to control his own trust, to take back his inheritance out of this trust, if you like, and then put it into another trust of his son or whatever, or you know, just keep it or whatever. But it's held in trust because he's not old enough to be able to use it and deal with it and spend it and stuff. But then when he reaches 18, the nanny decides that she's not going to tell little Johnny that she's got his money, that she's spending his money on him. What she does instead is like she puts a wreath over his head and sends him to school and pays his hospital bills, buys his food, and then expects that he acts like a slave for her and heeds to everything she says, because of the false pretense that she's looking after him. Yeah, when it's actually his inheritance, which is what he's got from his father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather, his great-great-grandfather and grandmother and the mother's lines, and all of that inheritance gets passed down. But you know, the point of this whole thing is not to go running to Nanny and shouting at her, you know, because really she's not the sole trustee. She's just been given authority as trustee from a higher position, and she doesn't really know the score. She's not got the money, you know. The police and everybody else haven't got our money, you know. It's not like that, and we shouldn't start getting greedy and trying to claim shit and start, you know. So that's the end of this video anyway. So